Hey everyone, it's Jonathan from Motorcycology. Thanks for stopping in from wherever you are watching in the world. If you're a new viewer, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. So in today's video, we're back working on the C3 Corvette. It's going to be about removing the old stabilizer bar on the front end and replacing it with new bushings, new bracket, and refinishing that stabilizer bar as well. So there are going to be a few challenges along the way, I'm pretty sure, as it always works out that way. But let's see how it goes and let's dive into it. So we're underneath the C3 here. I'm going to be taking off the stabilizer bar or sway bar. It's attached via these bushings here and on that side, and then also this part is connected to the control arm, and I'll show you on the other side what I mean. So you can see the sway bar here going through that bushing, which is attached up here, and then it comes around here and goes to the left control arm and attached here. So I'll be removing this thing as well. I've got brand new ones to go in. I still have to take apart the suspension here, which you can see right here, still needs to come off, but I'm waiting to get the other side done. For today, I'll be taking this off. I'm going to put some more penetrant in there. I've done that before. Hopefully it'll work. This here should not be a problem to get that off. So it's going to be hopefully a quick job of taking this off. I'm going to refinish the stabilizer bar and then put it back in. So let's see how that goes. I put a jack stand underneath the control arm so that when I take this thing off, if the control arm lowers a little bit, it's going to rest on the jack stand opposed to coming all the way down. And that should make this process of removing the little connector between the control arm and the sway bar a lot easier. Should work better. There we go. This is ready to come out. And here's the old one of these things. Got a new one. Now it's going to be, this one broke off, so I'm working on this one now. All right, let's try and get these two bolts out. Hopefully that will be doable. Let's see. It's gonna break too, guaranteed. I'm really taking my time here with the breaker bar to make sure that I move the bolts back and forth. That way it progressively helps loosen them opposed to breaking them. So I'm not really too sure what's going to happen with this one, but I'm going to say overall it was successful on this side, less so on the driver's side. With these C3s, you never know. There's always going to be something. And I certainly had my hands full with this seemingly easy project of doing the sway bar. There's a lot of issues that come up with it that took a lot more time and energy than I expected at the beginning of it, and you're going to see some of this in this video as we get into it. Let's do this on slow. Right now working on this one. There we go. That bar is now loose. This is the left side here. One of the bolts snapped off, and the other one, the top of it, is hard to get a grip on. So I'm gonna have to break both of these and then drill those out, which makes the job a whole lot less fun, that's for sure. All right, hopefully this thing will bend it down enough. Almost. All right, that one's able to come out now. There we go. Here's that part that I need to get off still. So this is going to be forced off, I think. And something like this should do it. A little bit of work, got it off. Easier access in there anyway. Still trying to get this off. Best way for me now is just to cut this off as much as possible. Ground a bit more off. Let's see if this comes off now. Right on. There we go. That is corroded right on there, unfortunately. That's what we're looking at here. Making an easy job more difficult, but it's predictable. So we're now at a stage where I've got to clean this thing up and repaint it. So I'm going to use a wire brush wheel and other tools to hopefully get all this junk off of it. Take these things off, keeping in mind how they went on. This thing down, that thing up. Take this guy off here. Don't need those. Bit of wildlife in here. All right, let's see how this works. So we've got all the oil and grease off of this thing, and I'm just going to go over it with one of these paint stripper wheels here before I get ready to paint it. So let's see how that goes. So here you can see how quickly it takes it down to the metal, and that is perfect. So I'm going to continue on with that and get this whole bar done. Let's continue. There's where I am right now. I've got all the oil, grease, paint, and rust off of it. So this thing is ready for painting and refinishing. So it's looking pretty good. It's down to the metal and good to paint. Well, I decided I'm going to put some POR 15 on this thing. So I've got a little bit left over from the frame, and I'm going to put it to use. So I don't need to show you the entire process, but it's the same thing. Clean, etch, and paint. So I'll show you the final product when it's done. So the etching's done. Once again, the etching leaves kind of a white mark on it, almost like white dust. That can be wiped off before the POR 15 goes on. So first coat looking not too bad. So this thing is done, and it looks really good actually. So here's the bar here, all done. Super nice finish. Totally happy with it. Got a couple areas that I need to touch up, but it's pretty good. All right, on to the next process. Here's what I'm still working on down here. So these are the bolts that are going to attach the sway bar, and the bolt heads have sheared off, but I've still got a whole bunch of threaded stuff here. So I'm soaking that in penetrant and giving that some time to sit in there. Then I'm going to try and wiggle these things loose from the top and see how that goes. So underneath here you can see how that's sheared off again. That's flush, so I'm going to try and rotate them from the top and then completely unscrew them up opposed to taking them down. So I'm just going to screw them all the way up. I don't know what's going to happen with these, so let's see how it goes. So I'm going to try and get that one out. All right, back here again. This thing here is driving me crazy. It's making the job so much longer and more difficult. So I'm going to weld a nut head onto this, and then hopefully that will work. So that's the last one I need to get done, and hopefully that will work out fine. So I'll show you that process since I'm in here doing it. So I took some time to clean this out. Now I'm going to put this over it, let's say, and then weld that to the bolt. I don't know if you can see that, and then weld the nut on there. So that's what I'm going to try. Just got to get a magnet to stick that there while I weld it. Should be good. All right, gonna give that a try. The last ditch effort that I'm trying here is I've got a washer. I'm using some rare earth magnets to attach it to the frame. Then I'm filling the hole up with welding material, and that's getting welded onto the shaft of the bolt. After that, I'm going to grind off the residual welding material, and then I'm going to grab a nut and weld that on. So what I'm doing is recreating the bolt head. That will enable me to torque that bolt out of there. Now in my case, it didn't work 100%, but the technique that I'm using here is a great last minute effort if you happen to shear off a bolt head and you have access to welding material and can do this. So I wanted to give it a try and see if it worked for me. Alright, I've got this little nut in place with the magnet. I'm going to put a little tack it in with the welder, and then I'm going to weld in the hole, and we should be good to go. So let's see how that goes. Here's where we are right now. Let that cool off and see if it's going to work. Alright, just getting ready to put the sway bar on. It's finished. It looks great. It's going to look good on the Corvette, so totally happy with that. It was easy to do with the POR 15. A couple other things I want to check out are the sway bar brackets with the bushings, and here's the info there if you're interested. And I've also got sway bar bracket bolts for the front. So they're in there, they're ready to go. Let's see what's in this box here as far as what these look like. Not checked these out yet, but they look pretty decent in there. There's the brackets and the bushings, which are really solid. And there's a little bit of super grease that is going to go on the inside of here to try and get that on. That's going to be a real challenge because, oh, I was going to say there's no split, but there is a split. It's going to be too easy to put on. And last but not least, whoops, here's the other bracket. So we've got the bushings in there, which are great. They sit like that. The bar will be in between, and they'll be bolted to the underside of the Corvette. What a difference that's going to make. A little bit of functionality and also aesthetics are going to look great. So there we go, and I'll be moving on to the install of this. All right, so we're going to get on with putting this back together and installing it on the C3s. All right, it's a good thing that I keep the old parts before I have to put on the new ones, because obviously, you know, do a side-by-side comparison, it's like something definitely wrong there. Here is the other one, and here's that bracket, which is totally the wrong one. So you know what, I'm going to have to go ahead and order the new set from that website, and that's going to take a couple of weeks for it to come in. But for you guys, it's just going to seem like that, and I'll have it. So let's see if that works out. So what I'm looking for is the sway bar stuff, and looks like I need to get the 7/8, which is for 1968 to 1982. So I'll add those. They're $12.99 each. And I also need to get a couple of those too. So add that to the cart. I'm going to go to my cart here. So far without shipping, we're looking at $76.79 just for those two parts. And let's go to the checkout and see how that works. So the total is going to be $95. That includes the shipping and stuff like that. So that's what I got to do. Order them and get back into it when those parts arrive. So in the last clip in the video, you saw me working with the sway bar and also trying to put in new bushings. Turns out they were a lot smaller than this original one. This is the original one of two. The other one I had to break. And hopefully the new ones are in here. So since the last clip, it's been about a month and I've traveled across the country, spent 2 weeks on Vancouver Island, built a shed, came back, done some other projects, and this finally arrived. So now I can complete the sway bar. So I'm going to open this and, keeping my fingers crossed, hopefully the right parts are in here. So let's give this a try and see what we have. And I ordered them through a place called Corvette Depot, which is corvettedepot.ca. And it's basically the same as Eckler's or Corvette Central as well. Let's see. Always nicely packed from these guys. So far looks good. So that's the exact part I need. And they had one in stock, but I had to wait, like I said, about 4 weeks for the other one to come in. So they look perfect and identical to the one that I took off. So I'm really happy about that. Let's check out the bushings. So there's the part right there. Sway bar bushing, rubber. And it's a 7/8, so yeah, looks awesome. And this is the old one here. This I probably could have reused, but I might as well do new ones. Definitely wanted new bushings anyway. It's another bracket, the other bracket there, and the other bushing, but none of that special grease, so I'm going to have to grab that from the old ones and use it in there. All right, let's open these up and start getting this thing ready to get on. So another reason why it took a little bit longer than normal is I did the front left suspension. I didn't record it, but now it matches the right, and I'll show you that when I get this thing on. These parts took so long to get in, so that's what this one's called in case anyone's looking for it. And this one, and it has a little split in it, which will help get it on the bar. And then this guy will pop into it like that. It's pretty good. So now to get this on the bar. Just going to put a little bit of lubricant in here, not much. It's a silicone based. Just enough to let it slip a little bit. So part of the challenge will be make sure that this is centered. So I'm going to have a look and see if I can find where they used to be. I never checked, but if I can locate that, then we're good. So from underneath the Corvette, it's 31 7/8 between the mounting bolts. So that'll give me a good benchmark anyway on where these brackets needs to go. 31 7/8 is right there. So those are way on the edges there. It's nice to know. So that's where I'm going to set them up as close as possible on these two corners. So for these, that split just allows you to get it on the bar without having to thread it through the bar, I guess. So that's all I'm doing here. And it's that simple. So now I'm going to be going underneath the Corvette and just attaching these things. Okay, so the first bracket screws are going to go in here. I did buy brand new screws. Make sure this bushing is properly in the bracket, which is important. And then just line the bracket up and start screwing it in. All right, let's get this one lined up.
I was eventually able to get the rear bolt out of that sway bar bracket. Remember earlier in the video you saw me weld the bolt to the stud? That was able to loosen it, but it wasn't good enough, so I ended up drilling out the hole and retapping it. And at the end of the day, everything worked out fine. It just delayed the process by an hour or so.
All right, that's good for now. I'm going to go back over to the other side and get the other bolt in. This guy will go in here. There we go. Stabilizer bar is on, and I just have to put in the links. All right, it's time to put on the sway bar end link bushings, and I'm going to get ready to do that right now. That's what they are. Pretty simple devices. This goes between, let's say, the sway bar. This goes in the control arm. So here's the link, and the tops are 5/8. So I'm just going to get this aligned. this guy, and that guy. Stick that through. This can go down a bit. Just going to go put in the other one on the other side. All right, we're going to put the other one through that side. Same process. This guy here. And in case you're wondering, this sway bar bends up this way. So if you have this thing pointing down, it's installed the wrong way. So keep in mind that this curves up, not down. And there we go. So to get the bottom one on, I'm gonna have to move this down a bit. Perfect. This guy goes up in here. And then this cap goes on. And then finally, if I can find it, this goes on here. Now I got to get my wrenches and tighten that one up. Okay, it's going to tighten this one up now. Okay, so for now, those are on fine, and I'll do the final torque for all of this stuff once I have some weight on the car. But that's pretty good. This is what I was waiting for, was rebuilding and redoing this entire section. So this front end is done, new sway bar or redone sway bar, new bushings, brackets, and new link between the sway bar and the control arm. So that's pretty good. Moving back onto the other side and we'll wrap this up. All right, just putting the last parts on it on this side. So there we have it. Finally, we've got all this done on both sides, and we've got the sway bar in with new brackets, new bushings, and new links as well. And once there's some weight on the car, I'm going to adjust this slightly. It's not too tight, but it's good enough for now. So like a lot of these things, once we get some weight on the suspension, we'll do the final adjustments with that. Hey, that concludes the video on the front sway bar and all the things that was associated with getting that off and then refurbishing it and putting it back together. So I'm so glad that one is done. It was delayed a little bit because I had to wait on some bushings that I had to order, but other than that, things were good. And I'm also dovetailing that in with working on putting all the front suspension back on the C3 Corvette on the right side and taking the left front suspension off, refurbishing and putting that in, which I'm not going to show on camera, but that is work in progress. So thanks so much, you guys, for sticking around for these videos. I hope you find them interesting and sometimes entertaining as well. And other than that, we'll see you back here next time.